Hello everybody, Brian Tulsa here. What are you doing today? Right now, the Broken Arrow Fire Department is out in front of my house and they're doing something at my next door neighbor's house. I have no idea what. So this channel used to be devoted to politics and law. And obviously I'm going to be doing a lot of other things with it, but there's no reason we have to get away from this channel's original purpose. I don't hide my political beliefs and affiliation, nor do I feel like I should have to. This is my channel, and this is personal. This isn't the toy review channel where I try to keep things focused on that subject. This is mine. So today, let's get political. And the subject that's been on my mind is the reasonable Trump supporter. Is the reasonable Trump supporter a myth? If you spend any time arguing on the internet, there seems to be a species of Trump supporter that sees themselves as quite reasonable and sees this all of this criticism of the president as a bunch of sour grapes by weak-minded people who are influenced by the lies of the mainstream media. And old Donny Boy, he's a good guy. He's a smart guy. He's doing the right things, but you know he says what he thinks. He's uncensored, and he offends people. But if people would just not be so offended, they would realize what a great job he's doing and what a great guy he is. And this, there we go. Now I can draw, while watching the television, and I've got some space to clear up over here, and I've got some ideas. I'm moving some things around. I got to create some space. I'm going to have a little bit more space to work. So, suppose you're not a Trump supporter. In fact, suppose you don't like the guy very much, and you would like to see him lose the next election. Somebody else get into office. You post a bunch of political memes. When you hear about something bad he did in the news, you share that on the Facebooks. And in your comment section, here comes the reasonable Trump supporter. And this guy's going to tell you what the president really meant when he said what he said. And how, if you just weren't so brainwashed by the mainstream media, you would understand what's really going on. And they'll share facts with you to back up the nonsense things that the president says. And on many occasions, I have seen friends on Facebook get these comments, and they don't know what to do, because often this is presented with new information that they didn't have before, and a new interpretation of the president's words that they had not considered, and they kind of get shut down because they're not prepared for this. What they're prepared for is what they learn from memes and by reading headlines and not the whole story. So, while that is a lesson, read the whole story, not just the headlines, and always dive deeper into any subject than just reading memes that are shared on the internet. Everything's a lot more complicated than will fit in that little text or image or whatever. But is the reasonable Trump supporter really reasonable? I say no. I say he appears to be reasonable. I say he thinks he's reasonable. But dig into those comments a bit more. The comments that you get that kind of leave you stumped. The comments that say, well, hey, here's this information, and if you just take this into account, what you will find is that the president was right, and they provide some arguments that that you haven't heard before. Dig a little bit deeper into them, because what you will usually find is the facts are not actually facts, or they are interpretations of facts, but not reasonable interpretations. Sometimes they are in fact wrong. Other times they are twisted to fit an argument in support of Trump. These alleged facts are twisted to support a rationalization. What I find is when I dig into those posts, they're never as good as they seem. They pointedly avoid using certain language, they don't insult, right? They don't use curse words, they don't use catchphrases, and so on the surface it seems like this is a reasonable discussion, and here is a reasonable pro-Trump argument, but break down the actual logic of what is being said. Expose the fallacies in those arguments that are really just under the surface. Look at the facts that are sent to you. Look at the sources. Is there a better source? Is that an unreliable or biased source? Is it contradicted by a better source? And honestly, I haven't run across a single one of those comments that wasn't vulnerable to simply examining and checking the facts. They're all BS. And yet, for the person who only gets their political information from memes and headlines, you're stumped. What do you do? There is an argument that you should not engage with such people because you can't persuade them. And I agree with that you cannot persuade them. I agree with that. That's true. But you're not trying to persuade them. What you have to do, though, is show them and anyone who comes along and reads that comment that you aren't buying their arguments, that their facts don't hold. Okay? That's what you have to show. Whether it convinces them or anyone else or not, that needs to be seen. Because if it's not, then what anyone sees then is that, well, this person came along and they won, right? So, hey, maybe all this Trump business isn't so bad after all. Maybe all of the accusations of racism and sexism and pettiness and all of the other things, maybe those are all trumped up by just people who don't like him, and so they're not being reasonable. So I think it's important to put the lie to that and to have some kind of response. But don't worry about persuading that person. You won't. But think about making sure that isn't unanswered, that doesn't go unanswered. One thing I don't think you should do, though, is don't worry about getting the last word in that argument, okay? Say your piece, throw out your sources, toss them out there, show where the real facts are, break down that argument and show the fallacies. Don't overstep your the strength of your argument, okay? If you have a strong argument here, don't go here, okay? Go as far as your strong argument will go. Don't go into territory where you might be weak, you know. Stick with the facts. Stick with good arguments. It shouldn't be that hard. The reason we make good arguments to counter bad arguments is not because the world out there is so persuadable by logical argument, right? Because we all know that emotional argument tends to be a lot more persuasive. True, very true. But the purpose of this is not always the persuasive power of it. One reason we make good arguments is so that when we are attacked, we are not so vulnerable. So that our side is not so easily disproven, right? Because if you throw something out there that turns out to be fake, if you share something that turns out to be false because you didn't check, because you didn't actually care if it was true or false, you just cared that it supported your version of events, then that gets blown out of the water. You become easily defeated. And then you become easily dismissed. And not only are you easily defeated, that becomes like a proxy for everyone else, right? Because your argument was weak, because whatever you presented was weak, everybody else who opposes Trump is painted as weak. Well, stop doing that. Just cut it out. But as I say, don't worry about getting the last word in. In fact, chances are you won't get the last word in, okay? Because you're dealing with either someone who's going to have a very fragile ego, right? Because this is somebody who thinks that they are an intellectual, and you have challenged their intellect. And so someone that insecure is going to have a personal need to fight back. And they'll keep going, they'll stay up till 3 a.m., still posting if you really want to keep it going. Don't worry about that. Or you're dealing with a Russian troll bot, okay? And if you're dealing with a Russian troll bot, then they don't sleep. So don't worry about getting the last word, okay? The important thing is to show to both the commenter and everyone else that you are not buying the BS. On the other hand, if you see that someone else has already dropped the truth bomb on this commenter and has made their exit because, why are they going to spend their day continuing to argue with that person? There's no reason you can't pick it up. You can tag team. Sometimes it's fun and actually hones the skills in arguments by taking on some of these folks. Sometimes it can actually help you hone your abilities to fight back. So yeah. Suppose you've got you see on the Facebooks that a friend has gotten one of these reasonable Trump supporter comments. Someone has already come in and dropped the bomb with cited sources showing that the argument is false. You can pick it up. You can take a few swings yourself, but just keep in mind what's important. It's not persuading that guy, but showing that that method of trying to present Trump's arguments and actions as reasonable, it's not. It doesn't fly here. So, is the reasonable Trump supporter a myth? I think so, because I've never seen one in the wild. And the ones that I thought that I saw turned out to be, just the regular run-of-the-mill, ordinary Trump supporter. Thanks. This was, I probably won't do a political vlog often, but I will if I want to, because it's my channel. Tomorrow, back at the office. But I've got some ideas. We'll do some fun stuff. Travel will happen as soon as it's safe. It's not safe yet, but we'll get this thing rolling. Thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. And now the police have the whole street blocked off. What have my neighbors done?